Mate versus mate, state versus state. As Mr. Good would say, we're under the goalpost. We're here for State of Origin. It's going to be a cracker. But before we jump into game two, we are going to talk about game one. If you're a New South Wales fan, you can turn it off, come back in about 5 minutes, and we'll start talking about game two, where hopefully we'll level the series. But I'm your host today at the Tony Rosina on Twitter and Instagram. I'm joined by Baxter. Baxter, first of all, how are you feeling? And second of all, you're not going to get invited back very many times if you keep wearing Queensland shirts like that.
Yeah, it's good to be back here. Look, I'm really excited and nervous, obviously, for this game two coming up in Optus Stadium over there in Perth. They say if you win game one, you normally win the series. Doesn't obviously mean that you win game two, because in our lifetime, there's probably been a max of two whitewashes through the series. So, look, come on, let's count down to D-Day and let's go the Maroons.
All right. Well, obviously, you did bring that up. There isn't many whitewashes, but obviously, in game one, Queensland did take the win. It was 16-10. The score's up there. The lineups are up there. I'll let you go first. What did you think, obviously, first of the New South Wales squad? Do you think anyone obviously deserves to lose their spot? And what changes do you think you'd make? And obviously, same thing with the Queensland squad, minus those that will miss the game due to injury.
Yeah, look, 1 to 13, I don't believe really anybody played a terrible game to lose their jersey, nor did they stand out. So obviously there you got Jack Whiten, who's out for COVID, who's the only sort of change you'd have to make. But rest of them pretty good. The only one I would drop from this starting 17 for New South Wales was Stephen Crichton, because I don't believe he's that kind of player to bring on to.
If you need someone to play in the centres of the wing, I don't believe he was the right pick for the jersey. On the opposite side, I believe Queensland did play really well. Obviously, the stats aren't in their favour, but it's what they did with the ball, and obviously less time possession than they had. They actually made it count. Bring as I said, Ben Hunt starting. It was an eyebrow raiser, but then we bring in Harry Grant that 23 minutes, 25-minute mark, and he just opened this game wide open, and it was close there to be best on ground. Him, Val, and Munster could have deserved it. Obviously, it went to Munster, and he's playing like a $2 million man, obviously out there. So good to see. Thanks for the tickets again, Tony, and go the Maroons.
Yeah, obviously, like you said, not many New South Wales fans or players probably deserve to lose their spots. I think Cleary's kicking game was a little bit off. Queensland was smart to slow down that rack. They struggled to get the ball from dummy half, but obviously there are a few changes that have been made into obviously game two. Like you said, Wyden's out, Staggs, well, we've seen how he's been playing. He's struggling. I think the biggest talking point from a New South Wales standpoint is Addo Card, Baxter, not getting included in the squad. What were your thoughts on that? And did you think Addo Card deserved that spot? I've just taken you off mute. Can you have your mic on, Baxter?
There you go. Sorry, it just connected to my AirPods. I've just turned them off. Sorry about that. Yeah, look, Fox is sort of that one. I think it's as I said in the game one. I think what's his name? Brad Fittler has picked a defensive team on the back of who Queensland pick, and obviously done that. Where I think you've got to pick the best players for your squad to win, and I don't believe Troops being in the New South Wales jersey has been the greatest, obviously, in his past records. So prove why he's not been the greatest. Like, to drop a guy like Fox, mind blowing. Obviously, in game two, hasn't been picked again. What's the man got to do? He's got to score like 10 tries in 2 games to be called up, or what? Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, I think, like you said, it was a bit of a defensive move. They've chucked Tupu in there to try and kind of alleviate that Xavier Coates. Now, obviously, Coates went down injured. He came off. And I think the kicking point probably was quite poor from New South Wales. What we expected going into that game was an absolute bomb affair from, obviously, Cherry Evans, Munster, Cleary, Luai. We thought it's going to be a battle of who can catch the most balls between Coates and Tupu, and that's not how it eventuated. But obviously, there has been mass changes. I'll let you pick. You're the guest today. Are we starting with the New South Wales side, or are we going to talk about the Queensland side first?
No, we'll talk about the home side first, which is New South Wales. So we'll go with them. They need it.
All right, we'll bring this up on the screen. Here is your New South Wales team for Game 2. Obviously, Tedesco holds his spot. Toto holds his spot. Matt Burton joins the side. Crichton comes into the starting lineup. Tupu, Luai, Cleary, Haas hold their spot. Appy Carousel comes into the starting lineup. Jake Triboyevich is back. Cameron Murray, Martin, Yeo, Damien Cook joins the bench. They've tried to mimic what Queensland does. Does it work? We don't know. Angus Crichton comes back in. Junior Polo, and obviously, last but not least, you've got Talakai making his Origin debut off the bench. And if worse comes to worse, we have Nico Hines coming in at 18th man. So I'm excited. I think Burton adds another level to our kicking game. If Cleary and Luai are going to get kicked, we've seen what Burton can do with those bombs. He gets us out of pressure. He'll put them down the field, and he'll take a bit of pressure off those boys. But for me, I think it's that leadership of Jake Triboyevich, the link up between Appy, Luai, Cleary. He knows what they want from dummy half. But what were your thoughts on that, Baxter?
Yeah, obviously, big surprise for Game 2. I think it was like 7 or 6 changes made to this overall squad. As I said, Stephen Crichton didn't play the greatest Game 1. So how does he play a poor average game and get selected into the centres to start with? Matt Burton, he wasn't picked. Obviously, there were whispers about him being picked for Game 1 and obviously not. Then he's come out and sort of put on a masterclass against Penrith in a losing side, and then against the Tigers, providing all the assists there for the Fox. So he's been selected for the left centre there, which is good. The one big eyebrow raiser I saw was sort of the Appy Carousel. Now, you and I have been talking about it off-pod about Queensland slowing down the ruck. Appy Carousel and Damien Cook, to me, in my professional opinion, are basically the same player. They like to play off the back of a quick play the ball out to their 7 and 6. So let's just say Queensland do slow down the ruck. Will Appy Carousel be enough to sort of bring a spark to this game and sort of open it up? Or is he just the guy that's going to be like Ben Hunt, absorb that 25-minute period, tackle as much as he can? On comes Damien Cook and tries to open up the game. I don't believe any of them could sort of spark a roll-on effect there. They're just two players that are similar. Both players can play 80 minutes, so I don't know why you brought two hookers on to sort of copy us. It's good to see Jake Triboyevich back in the squad. Obviously, he missed out on Game 1. He's another player who should be automatically picked, because if you're talking about the World Cup at the end of the year, he's in my starting 13. You've got the likes of Isaiah and Liam Martin there from Penrith doing well. Junior Paulo, he hasn't got the greatest form at the moment, and he's still been selected. I believe Campbell Gillard, the 70s style porno style mustache there, he's been playing better than him. So bit harsh. And then you've got Talakai, who can play centres or play in the pack. Look, as I said, it's going to be a great game. I am nervous. So what do you think, Tony?
Obviously, I think that Appy Carousel, like I said, I think it's familiarity. Obviously, the ball playing from Damien Cook in Game 1 from that dummy half position, as if Cleary and Luai were maybe a step behind or a step in front of where he wanted to throw the ball. So I think bringing in Appy, that also brings, I guess, another aspect of, if we have a scrum, say 10 metres out, you now can play those Penrith set pieces. You've got Luai, you've got Cleary, you've got Appy who can go to the left, you've got Crichton just outside him now. So you've got those kind of set plays that they can try and bring into Origin and try and really crack down and break down that Queensland defence. Now, Jake Triboyevich, he might not be 100% the best player you can find in that position, but what he does bring is leadership. He will lead the team around. He will be there to stand up and, you know what, try and put a big hit. He might not go for a gap because I can't remember the last time he made a line break, but I think that experience there is going to help this side moving forward now. Talakai, I think that's a big talking point here, Josh. He comes off the bench against a tired Queensland defence. He has the power to run over, I think, anyone in the competition now. It didn't happen when he played against Stags when they played Brisbane, but obviously he's got his spot now. He's going to come off the bench, and it wouldn't shock me if he puts a try over the line today, especially against a tired Queensland after 25, 30 minutes. But if you had to give it a rating, Baxter, out of 10, based on how many changes we've made, what would you give this rating?
Yeah. Oh God, I think Brad Fittler's a madman. I think he's coming to an open heart surgery and he's trying to apply band-aids to a bleeding blue squad. Trying to take the bias out of this as much as possible. I'm going a 6 based on game 1. As I said, is Appy the player to get that spark, get the Blues rolling? As you said, he's got that links with the Penrith boys of Cleary and Luai. He can feed the balls out. If the balls aren't fast, it's sort of you've just destroyed your whole spine. Tedesco plays on the back of Luai and Cleary getting a fast play the ball. The forwards play on the back of Appy trying to get a fast play the ball. Look. Obviously, we've talked about the refs have been trained to make it faster and whatnot. But yeah, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I'll give it a 6.
There, guys. If you've got to spare $5, Baxter just put the jinx on Queensland, so put $5 on Appy Coruscant, man of the match. I'm not sure what he's paying, but it's going to be a hefty amount because I don't think he's going to be on the pitch for too long, especially if we try and mimic that Harry Grant on. But what were you saying, Baxter?
If the ball is rolling, let's just say the ball is rolling for Blues and it's going well, I do believe Cook's minutes will be minimal because it's working. You don't try and change something that is working for you. You only change it if it's not working. And yeah, look, yeah, I give this Blues squad a 6.5 out of 10. Is Appy the bloke? We'll wait and see.
All right. Well, we will jump into the Queensland side. Very minimal changes. Obviously, there has been injuries to Coates. Talk me through that lineup, and it's a strong lineup on paper. It's scary on paper, but just talk me through it.
It is a very unchanged side, and when I say that is Xavier Coates obviously limping off in the 23rd minute. Obviously, Dane Gogai slides out onto the wing, and Capewell moves into the centre. So great on them. Yeah, so we got Murray Talangalai, the Cowboys winger, making his Origin debut out there at the right wing. Then you've got the bloke Ruben Cotter, obviously going down with a hamstring injury pre-match before the Cowboys took on the Seagulls. So you got Lindsay Collins moving into the 8 off the bench. You got Tino moving from prop to lock. And you got Jairo moving from our 18th man named on the night, moving into the bench there with Tom Dearden at 18 at the moment. It could change. You could see a Reece Walsh, maybe a Thomas Flegler in that 18 role. But it is a strong squad. It is a very strong squad. We talked about Kalen Ponga. Is he the man to get that $5 million for 5 years? Mate, he proved why he is that multi-million-dollar man in game 1. Look, you can say he had his moment. He's had his quiet periods. But, mate, when you put on that Maroons jersey, all that club football form just goes out the window and you just rise. You play for your mate. As the Queensland saying goes, you never give up for your mate. You never give up on your state. And that's what these boys are doing tonight. And look, again.
Well, I don't know. A few of them gave up on each other last year, but yeah, keep going.
Mate, last year. We're talking right now, mate. We're talking right now. Munster, if he plays like he has been, mate, move aside Wally Lewis. We've got a new king of origin in Cameron Munster there. Oh, the bloke's on fire. Stop it, mate. But look, apart from, let's put up all the bias out the side, it is a very strong squad. We've only had to make 2 changes due to injury. Yeah, look, the only player I would change, and it is just a purely based on form, is Josh Papali'i. He hasn't been playing the great with Canberra Raiders. I did say that once you sort of get rid of club football form, and when you put that Queensland jersey on, you sort of step it up a bit. But in game 1, he wasn't really the best. Look, according to zerotackle.com, he did get a 4 out of 10. So he's the lowest ranking starting player to get that number, to get a rating of 4. Look, you could put Jair on, you could put Pat Carrigan on. He's a tremendous leader for the Brisbane Broncos there. Look, it is a very, very strong squad, and hopefully we win. Look, my man of the match, if it is going to Queensland, will be Cameron Munster. He will get that Wally Lewis medal. Look, I'm never going to doubt him. I'm never going to go against him, but I'm going Queensland in a 12.5 start, and that's it. That's all I'm saying. First try scorer is very hard to pick. I did pick Seven Cobo, but he did play brilliantly and didn't get across the line. He did assist Dane Gagai, but yeah, I'll give Queensland 12.5 start in my professional opinion.
So obviously you've given your 12.5 start. Is that to me is saying you're not that confident that you're taking the win today. You're taking a 12.5 head start.
This is look, you got to look at it. Look, we talked about the weather. We'll talk about the weather. Look, it's going to be about 19 degrees at kickoff. It's going to be whistling 4 knots. It's going to be 54% humidity at kickoff. By half time, it should be 74. It is a very different style of origin. It's going to be a nice, quick, fast play the ball, which suits New South Wales if we want to go back to it where the Panthers link up. So, look, as I said, you win game 1, you win normally the series. Doesn't obviously mean you win game 2. So, look, it is all saying New South Wales to win. So I'm going to give Queensland a 12.5 start. I hope Queensland prove me wrong and I can eat my words, come into game 3 and we can whitewash this whole thing. But that's just where my head's leaning at in a professional courtesy opinion.
Well, obviously, like it says on the bottom of the screen, it is an 8 p.m. kickoff for us. But what changes that is obviously it is over at Optus Sports Stadium. So I believe they're about 2 or 3 hours behind. So it's
6:05 kickoff for them.
There you go. So 6:05 kickoff. It's still going to be a bit sunny. So obviously the bombs that go up, if there's a bit of sun, that's going to play a factor. Whereas that wouldn't usually be a factor if you played in New South Wales or Queensland. So it's shaping up to be a cracker. I'm siding with my boys. I think they get the job done. It goes to Suncorp for the decider. I just think if you look at where games are won, it's the kicking game. Cleary, Luai cannot have a kicking game as poor as they did in game 1. And I'm not saying it was terrible, but the expectations that they've set for themselves, it was below par. So I think they step up. I'm taking the Blues minus 5.5. I think we're going to win by more than 6. It might be a bit closer, but I'm confident we're going to take that win. But I'm not going to let you go there because just in case we lose, I've got to enjoy something. So I'm going to pop it up on the screen. Obviously, we're all about equality here, Baxter. It's all about the girls as well. We're going to pop it up on the screen. The girls, obviously, for the first time in 3 years, it's come back to New South Wales for the game. And the New South Wales girls have taken it out 20-14 now. I don't know if you've heard too much about how big of a result this is. Next year, they're looking at going to 2 games. I want to get your thoughts on this. New South Wales take a 3-2 lead now in the series. So New South Wales has won 2, the first 2, Queensland won 2, now we've won 1. If for whatever reason next year finishes 1-1, New South Wales take home the trophy because they have the most shields. Now, surely, I don't know if you caught much of this game. I'm sure you caught the attendance. It was around, broke the record. So it was over 10,000, which is amazing for the women's game.
Well done.
Well, surely we can squeeze a 3rd game somewhere in there and just let them have 1 in Queensland, 1 in New South Wales, and put 1 in Perth, WA, wherever, but surely there's enough room to do it.
Yeah, obviously with the women's game at club level, they brought in 10 teams into the comp next year, which will be really impressive. I am I'm a bit confused. Why would you just jump it from 1 to 2? Why wouldn't you just jump it from 1 to 3? As you said, the ratings were through the roof. Yes, I did catch a little bit of the game. I didn't really watch it, all of it. But why can't you just go to 3? Why can't you play on the Saturday or, a couple hours before the boys play or something, It doesn't have to be at the same stadium. You can play somewhere else. It is a bit stupid playing 2 State of Origin games, and their State of Origin series is played outside their regulation normal season for club football. It is a bit weird, but it is what it is. I can't change it. Look, hats off. Got a hats off for the girls, the Blues there. Great win for them. Unlucky for Queensland, and yeah.
Well, I will say you pretty much summed it up there. If you look at the Origin series that have been won, it's interesting because the first 2 years were obviously held in New South Wales. New South Wales won both. The next 2 were played in Queensland due to COVID. Queensland won both. We've come down to Canberra in New South Wales, and they've taken home that. So now, yes, it's a 2-game series, but if that first game's in New South Wales, arguably the series is over if New South Wales win game 1. There is no way for Queensland, even if they win 100-0, they cannot win if New South Wales win game 1. So hopefully people come to their senses. Hopefully they jump in and they do chuck a 3rd game in, because I don't know, but like I said, you watched a bit of it. I watched the whole game. I think coming off the back of that postponed 2021 season, the game was so much better. They were firing, they were pushing, they were making those runs. It looked a lot more structured than what it has in the past. So who knows? Hopefully, maybe let them get through their season. Whenever their season finishes, go back to back weekends. Let them play those 3 games of Origin. Let's get it decided, because there's definitely growth in that women game. But obviously, Baxter, I'll leave it to you. Do you have any final questions that you do want to ask? Any final comments for the New South Wales fans listening, the Queensland fans listening, and New South Wales fans, don't worry. If he says anything bad, I'll mute him and we won't have to listen to him. But any final questions for you?
Yeah, it's sort of a question that goes around. Should players who play for a T2 nation, I know now, let's just get it out there, no player is breaking any rules here, but do you believe that a player who pledges his allegiance to a T2 nation, who are the only T1 nations are Australia, New Zealand, and England, should they be eligible to play for New South Wales or Queensland? That is my question. Should if you're because we've got the World Cup at the end of the year, and right now we've just seen it, Stags, who played game 1, who just played for Tonga. Should that be allowed? Should it not be? Like for you, let's just use your example. You have Italian heritage and you were born in Australia. They should come to you and say, hey, who do you want to play for, Italy or Australia? And if you pick Italy, well, sorry, State of Origin's out of the question for you. Should that be a rule?
It's a tough one.
Huh?
It's a tough one, because I look at obviously the games last night and I look at these teams where some of them had a large contingency of New South Wales Cup players. Now, I don't believe that if they need to fill a squad and you need to throw a New South Wales Cup player in there when I'm 17, that could potentially rule me out of Origin. So am I waiting to see if I develop and become a top 30 player or a top 23 player? Like, it falls into that category. Now, Stags, he gets an injury. He says no to Tonga because he thinks he's going to make the New South Wales side hypothetically. He might never make the New South Wales squad again, and now Tonga doesn't want to use him. So it is a tough one. I think there is some rules that need to change.
Because I would love to see an Origin series between Tonga and Samoa, or Cook Islands versus PNG, to bring their international level up. If let's just say example, you're a Samoa Tongan, and you knew that there was a chance for playing for one of those nations 3 times a year instead of playing for New South Wales. would you take it? I'd rather put on the international jersey than the state jersey. I know previously there was talk of the money or the bonus that you got for playing State of Origin was about the 45, 30 grand mark. It's now at 15. I reckon it should go down to 10 because, mate, if I got a chance to put on a Maroons jersey, I don't even worry about match payments. I would love just to put on the jersey. That's my opinion. And look.
So you'd rule them out? It's one or the other?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the bonus of playing for Australia, pledging your allegiance to Australia, is that you get to play State of Origin. It's not, should I play State of Origin or Tonga or Samoa or PNG or the Cook Islands or Lebanon, whatever you want to pick. It should be basically, should I play for Australia or do I play for a Tier 2 nation? That's it.
I'm going to go the other way. I think you've got to allow them to play for those Tier 2 nations because, again, we'll pop them up just quickly on the screen. I look at this New South Wales side. I then pop up just quickly this Queensland side. There's 40 players there. 20 of them are going to go into the Australian camp. There's another probably 40 that are in the lines to be in this Origin squad. Now, I mean, if worst comes to worst and I get to call up to let's say an Italian side, there's no guarantee I'm going to get an Origin gig at all in my life, especially if I'm number 7. Imagine if I'm a number 7 right now, I'm behind Nathan Cleary, who's going to be around for years. He's going to be in that position. Of course I'm going to go play for Italy because there might be no chance. But then if Cleary gets injured, I throw away my spot. And I think you've got to allow them, especially those bottom Tier 2 teams, because it's going to rule way too many people out with these players wanting to represent their mum's heritage and their dad's heritage and all that. I think you've got to allow them to play, but maybe cap it at after your 3rd international cap, then you're done from New South Wales or in Queensland. Something like that. Give them a couple games, see if they're in the mix. If they're not, 3 games, 5 games, whatever it is, you're gone.
Yeah, just rattles the cage there when you see Jerome Luai, who's pledged his allegiance to, I believe it is Tonga at the end of the year for the World Cup. And in the same boat, you got his Penrith teammate, Brian Toto, who's pledged his allegiance to Australia. And it's like, well, mate, Luai, why do you want to play for the Blues? Because the Blues really means you play for Australia. Really, like, that's my opinion. Like, if you want to play for Australia, you benefit from the cherries of playing for Queensland or New South Wales. That is my opinion. Obviously, other people will have different opinions and different thoughts, but it'd be good to start a conversation there.
Well, obviously, before we jump off, because we are pushing that half an hour bracket, we've given our plus, our minuses. It's time for a score prediction. We're not taking pluses. We're not taking minuses. Give us your score prediction for game 2. Obviously, you didn't sound confident before, but do Queensland take the win or do you see a New South Wales forcing a decider?
Look, we'll start off with the bias. We'll get it out of the way. It's 30-0 Queensland, mate. We're just wiping the floor with this. But let's bring it back to reality. Let's get it back on the planet Earth here. I've said, my heart will always say Queensland, and I'm going an 18-12 Queensland victory. Now, my betting thing says New South Wales will win the opposite way, 18-12. So, look, take what you want from it, but go the Maroons.
I've gone a bit more. I guess you could call it bias, but it's also what I believe is going to happen tonight. I think we level the series. I think we go to Suncorp. I had 24-10 in my head. I just think Cleary, he's got a point to prove now. They're saying he's a washed-up Munster. He's got a point to prove. So he's going to come in. He's going to try and change that game. You know what? Chuck him in as man of the match. And I'm going to chuck in Matt Burton as my first try scorer for game 2. We do have a cheeky little bonus bet on it for Punters Club. So fingers crossed that does come through, Berto. Get across that line. But have you got any closing remarks before we finish it off, Baxter?
Call Nathan Cleary a washed-up Munster. Oh.
I don't know if it's that much of an insult, to be honest. Like, I
was hearing the pundits after game 1, like driving home. I'm just hearing people bagging Nathan Cleary for one bad performance. It wasn't even his fault. Like, let's be honest. I can't believe New South Wales could just turncoat against a player like that. Like, just what are you? Just if it's not going New South Wales way, you just like, oh, pick another player. Pick another player. Is Nathan Cleary the new Mitchell Pearce?
Okay, we won't go that far. Nah, Mitchell Pearce at Origin level, we can just say it wasn't the greatest transition from club to Origin, but obviously, he, like you said, it was one bad game. It's media. That's what they're there for. They're there to stir a bit of trouble, psych a few people up, get people talking. But obviously, guys, if you are new around here and you did enjoy the video, drop a like, hit the subscribe button. But before we finish, Baxter, you wanted to talk about potentially Channel 9. Obviously, you were at the game. I was unable to make it, but you were at the game. I got you tickets, and then you still made fun of me after we lost. So there's that kind of side of things. But talk to me through the entertainment. You wanted to talk about the entertainment and how you thought it should have been shown more on, obviously, Channel 9.
Yeah, look, being at the game, thanks for tickets again. That's all I'm going to say on it. It was great. They put on is it the NRL who put on a great performance, or whoever it was? It was really good. And then to come back and rewatch the game and see none of it being shown on Channel 9, who are the exclusive showers of State of Origin, it was just terrible. Like, what? They want to fit in Tracy Grimshaw with a current affair. Tell her to have a fucking night off and show this great stuff. Like, you know, say you're a family out in Broken Hill, you can't get to the game, you can't see that, yet you want to watch it on the game on the TV and watch this great game. You miss out on all this. Like, come on, Channel 9, up your game. Like, show a bit of it, or better yet, like, yeah, as I said, get rid of Tracy Grimshaw, tell her to have a night off, show the stuff. Yes, you want to talk about your pundits, you want to put in the Channel 9, you want to put in the news there at 6 o'clock. Okay, great. You don't need to talk for an hour. Talk for like the last
Backstar. Where are we sending Channel 9? If they don't show the pre-game today, where are we? We're sending them for 10. They're gone.
And that's it. Like, get out of here, Channel 9. Show the pre-match stuff.
All right, well, obviously, we have obviously been the Gone for 10 show. We will be back with a review of Game 2, but there it says, in case you miss it, Game 2, Optus Sports Stadium, tonight, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time kickoff. Baxter, I'm going to leave you with this so you can't respond.